NLT API Genesis 13 verses 1 to 18. NLT Genesis 13 Abram and Lot separate 1. So Abram left Egypt and traveled north into the Negev, along with his wife and Lot and all that they owned. 2. Abram was very rich in livestock, silver, and gold. 3. From the Negev, they continued traveling by stages toward Bethel, and they pitched their tents between Bethel and Ai, where they had camped before. For this was the same place where Abram had built the altar, and there he worshipped the Lord again. 5. Lot, who was traveling with Abram, had also become very wealthy with flocks of sheep and goats, herds of cattle, and many tents. 6. But the land could not support both Abram and Lot with all their flocks and herds living so close together. 7. So disputes broke out between the herdsmen of Abram and Lot. At that time Canaanites and Perizzites were also living in the land. 8. Finally Abram said to Lot, "Let's not allow this conflict to come between us or our herdsmen. After all, we are close relatives." 9. The whole countryside is open to you. Take your choice of any section of the land you want, and we will separate. If you want the land to the left, then I'll take the land on the right. If you prefer the land on the right, then I'll go to the left. 10. Lot took a long look at the fertile plains of the Jordan Valley in the direction of Zoar. The whole area was well watered everywhere, like the garden of the Lord or the beautiful land of Egypt. This was before the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. 11. Lot chose for himself the whole Jordan Valley to the east of them. He went there with his flocks and servants and parted company with his uncle Abram. 12. So Abram settled in the land of Canaan, and Lot moved his tents to a place near Sodom and settled among the cities of the plain. 13. But the people of this area were extremely wicked and constantly sinned against the Lord. 14. After Lot had gone, the Lord said to Abram, "Look as far as you can see in every direction, north and south, east and west." 15. I am giving all this land, as far as you can see, to you and your descendants. 13:15 Hebrew seed. Also in 13:16, as a permanent possession. 16. And I will give you so many descendants that, like the dust of the earth, they cannot be counted. 17. Go and walk through the land in every direction, for I am giving it to you. 18. So Abram moved his camp to Hebron and settled near the oak grove belonging to Mamre. There he built another altar to the Lord. NLT API Genesis 14 verses 1 to 24. NLT Genesis 14 Abram rescues Lot 1. About this time, war broke out in the region. King Amraphel of Babylonia, *14:1 Hebrew Shinar. Also in 14:9. King Arioch of Elasa, King Chedorlaomer of Elam, and King Tidal of Goyim II fought against King Bera of Sodom, King Bershah of Gomorrah, King Shernab of Admah, King Shemeber of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, also called Zor. 3. This second group of kings joined forces in Siddim Valley, that is, the Valley of the Dead Sea *14:3 Hebrew Salt Sea. For 12 years they had been subject to King Chedorlaomer, but in the 13th year they rebelled against him. 5. 1 year later Chedorlaomer and his allies arrived and defeated the Rephates at Ashtaroth Karnaim, the Zuzites at Ham, the Emites at Shave Kiriathaim. 6. And the Horites at Mount Seir, as far as El Paran at the edge of the wilderness. 7. Then they turned back and came to En-Mishpat, now called Kadesh, and conquered all the territory of the Amalekites, and also the Amorites living in Hazazon Tamar. 8. Then the rebel kings of Sodom, Gomorrah, Admah, Zeboim, and Bela, also called Zor, prepared for battle in the Valley of the Dead Sea. *14:8 Hebrew Siddim Valley, C14:3. Also in 14:10. 9. They fought against King Chedorlaomer of Elam, King Tidal of Goyim, King Amraphel of Babylonia, and King Arioch of Elasa, for kings against 5. 10. As it happened, the Valley of the Dead Sea was filled with tar pits. And as the army of the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah fled, some fell into the tar pits, while the rest escaped into the mountains. 11. The victorious invaders then plundered Sodom and Gomorrah and headed for home, taking with them all the spoils of war and the food supplies. 12. They also captured Lot, Abram's nephew who lived in Sodom, and carried off everything he owned. 13 But one of Lot's men escaped and reported everything to Abram the Hebrew, who was living near the oak grove belonging to Mamre the Amorite. Mamre and his relatives, Eshcol and Aner, were Abram's allies. 14 When Abram heard that his nephew Lot had been captured, he mobilized the 318 trained men who had been born into his household. Then he pursued Chedorlaomer's army until he caught up with them at Dan 15. There, he divided his men and attacked during the night. Chedorlaomer's army fled, but Abram chased them as far as Hobah, north of Damascus. 16 Abram recovered all the goods that had been taken, and he brought back his nephew Lot with his possessions and all the women and other captives. Melchizedek blesses Abram 17 After Abram returned from his victory over Chedorlaomer and all his allies, the king of Sodom went out to meet him in the valley of Shave, that is, the king's valley. 18 And Melchizedek, the king of Salem and a priest of God Most High, * 14:18 Hebrew Elelian, also in 14:19, 20, 22, brought Abram some bread and wine. 19 Melchizedek blessed Abram with this blessing. Blessed be Abram by God Most High, creator of heaven and earth. 20 And blessed be God Most High, who has defeated your enemies for you. Then Abram gave Melchizedek a tenth of all the goods he had recovered. 21 The king of Sodom said to Abram, "Give back my people who were captured, but you may keep for yourself all the goods you have recovered." 22 Abram replied to the king of Sodom, "I solemnly swear to the Lord, God Most High, creator of heaven and earth, 23 that I will not take so much as a single thread or sandal thong from what belongs to you. Otherwise you might say, I am the one who made Abram rich. 24 I will accept only what my young warriors have already eaten, and I request that you give a fair share of the goods to my allies, Aner, Eshcol, and Mamre." NLT API Genesis 15 verses 1 to 21. NLT Genesis 15 The Lord's covenant promise to Abram. 1 Sometime later, the Lord spoke to Abram in a vision and said to him, "Do not be afraid, Abram, for I will protect you, and your reward will be great." 2 But Abram replied, "O sovereign Lord, what good are all your blessings when I don't even have a son? Since you've given me no children, Eliezer of Damascus, a servant in my household, will inherit all my wealth. 3 You have given me no descendants of my own, so one of my servants will be my heir." For then the Lord said to him, "No, your servant will not be your heir, for you will have a son of your own who will be your heir." 5 Then the Lord took Abram outside and said to him, "Look up into the sky and count the stars if you can. That's how many descendants you will have." 6 And Abram believed the Lord, and the Lord counted him as righteous because of his faith. 7 Then the Lord told him, "I am the Lord who brought you out of Ur of the Chaldeans to give you this land as your possession." 8 But Abram replied, "O sovereign Lord, how can I be sure that I will actually possess it?" 9 The Lord told him, "Bring me a 3-year-old heifer, a 3-year-old female goat, a 3-year-old ram, a turtle dove, and a young pigeon." 10 So Abram presented all these to him and killed them. Then he cut each animal down the middle and laid the halves side by side. He did not, however, cut the birds in half. 11 Some vultures swooped down to eat the carcasses, but Abram chased them away. 12 As the sun was going down, Abram fell into a deep sleep, and a terrifying darkness came down over him. 13 Then the Lord said to Abram, "You can be sure that your descendants will be strangers in a foreign land, where they will be oppressed as slaves for 400 years. 14 But I will punish the nation that enslaves them, and in the end they will come away with great wealth. 15 As for you, you will die in peace and be buried at a ripe old age. 16 After 4 generations your descendants will return here to this land, for the sins of the Amorites do not yet warrant their destruction." 17 After the sun went down and darkness fell, Abram saw a smoking firepot and a flaming torch pass between the halves of the carcasses. 18 So the Lord made a covenant with Abram that day and said, "I have given this land to your descendants, all the way from the border of Egypt *15:18 Hebrew the river of Egypt, referring either to an eastern branch of the Nile River or to the brook of Egypt in the Sinai, see number 34:5. To the great Euphrates River, 19 the land now occupied by the Kenite, Kenizzites, Cadmonites, 20 Hittites, Perizzites, Rephates, 21 Amorites, Canaanites, Girgashites, and Jebusites. NLT API Genesis 16 verses 1 to 16. NLT Genesis 16, the birth of Ishmael 1. Now Sarai, Abram's wife, had not been able to bear children for him, but she had an Egyptian servant named Hagar. 2. So Sarai said to Abram, "The Lord has prevented me from having children. Go and sleep with my servant. Perhaps I can have children through her." And Abram agreed with Sarai's proposal. 3. So Sarai, Abram's wife, took Hagar the Egyptian servant and gave her to Abram as a wife. This happened 10 years after Abram had settled in the land of Canaan. For so Abram had sexual relations with Hagar, and she became pregnant. But when Hagar knew she was pregnant, she began to treat her mistress, Sarai, with contempt. 5. Then Sarai said to Abram, "This is all your fault. I put my servant into your arms, but now that she's pregnant, she treats me with contempt. The Lord will show who's wrong, you or me." 6. Abram replied, "Look, she is your servant, so deal with her as you see fit." Then Sarai treated Hagar so harshly that she finally ran away. 7. The angel of the Lord found Hagar beside a spring of water in the wilderness, along the road to Shur. 8. The angel said to her, "Hagar, Sarai's servant, where have you come from, and where are you going?" "I'm running away from my mistress, Sarai," she replied. 9. The angel of the Lord said to her, "Return to your mistress, and submit to her authority." 10. Then he added, "I will give you more descendants than you can count." 11. And the angel also said, "You are now pregnant, and will give birth to a son. You are to name him Ishmael, which means God hears, for the Lord has heard your cry of distress. 12. This son of yours will be a wild man, as untamed as a wild donkey. He will raise his fist against everyone, and everyone will be against him. Yes, he will live in open hostility against all his relatives." 13. Thereafter, Hagar used another name to refer to the Lord, who had spoken to her. She said, "You are the God who sees me." *16:13 Hebrew Elroy. She also said, "Have I truly seen the one who sees me?" 14. So that well was named Bir Lahai-roi, which means well of the living one who sees me. It can still be found between Kadesh and Bered. 15. So Hagar gave Abram a son, and Abram named him Ishmael. 16. Abram was 86 years old when Ishmael was born.